Farscape Engineers Inspector Summary Video. Here we are in Boston. What we have is a Farscape here that's been painted. Looks like it had some refurbishment, but there's a lot of original hardware. So this is one of those candidates that, because it's still in good condition, a lot of original hardware, not too much rust in all of its connections, some welds. I'll be able to explain what this one what can be done with this one to go to a load test, to get a guarantee, or do we just take out the remaining bolts that were never changed out to avoid the load test? Or as this was done 5 years ago, just issue what's called an opinion letter stating that, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, this Farscape is in conformity with the code. So let's take a look at what we have here. So a lot of these welds, as soon as we pop in a bolt, we don't have to x-ray or load test these welds. And the bolt now, once I seal this, I'm going to stop the rust from getting in behind here. This is what typically happens. I got a weld, but the rust is evident getting behind here and eating my weld from the inside out. This is not only happening here, it's also happening here. It's happening here. Even though the weld on the outside has been painted, it looks great, this thing is actually working its way from the underside and it's getting in there. So in order for me to avoid having to x-ray or load test this at great expense, as soon as I pop a bolt in here and I bolt it and then I try to seal any moisture from getting back in there, I don't have to x-ray or load test it. Same thing here, there's already a hole here. Pop a bolt through here, I don't have to worry about these welds. So a lot of the welds and every weld, to avoid having to x-ray or load test, as soon as I pop a bolt, seal the baby up, we're good there. Okay, original hardware everywhere. Everything's an original tread. I have a concern about this angle that they put on here because they welded it, but again, it's on the nose. I think they were just trying to get the treads to be a certain length, maybe 9 or 10 inches. It looks like they were trying to achieve the 10, but here you have bolts that are all original. Some rust is starting to accumulate. Typical, this happens to these treads a lot, but there's not much rust inside the clip, so I'll show you when I get down. But all original hardware, see? So this is a candidate for a load test. All original square head bolts. Square heads, square heads. So the verification process is a load test. Mass Building Code 1001 says examine, test, or certify. The certification process has been done through opinion only. So here I have an original hardware bolt right there. Look at all the rust sitting inside here. And this is not too many of these. There's only a few. An all welded connection here with a bolt and a weld on this side. So I re-bolt here, I take that bolt out, and then I seal this all up so water doesn't get in there. Now that's a verifiable connection that doesn't need a load test. Okay, your grading is all in pretty good condition. I think the painting that's been happening on this has been keeping it, but occasionally, and this will happen over time, water will get into these, then they split these babies up and you either have to replace them or you have to sandwich them in order to maintain the 1 inch spacing. Okay, let's continue going down this Farscape. This Farscape was recently painted probably in the past 5 or 10 years, and because it's in between two buildings, it's not getting much wear and tear from the sun or from the wind and the rain. We got some cement issues which I'm going to discuss, so railing issues, these were extended to be 42. Let's go down a little bit and let's talk about all original hardware. Original square head bolts and all the treads. None of the treads were swapped out on the side. Everyone is original hardware on all the treads. A lot of your connections, original hardware, 50 to 75 years old. The only way to guarantee this is to load test these old bolts. That allows me to render a certificate that says it's not an opinion, it's a fact that they're good because we load tested. See, somebody just spot welded these, and there's a bolt on that side, so we need to pop the bolts back in here. But again, on this Farscape, you got about a 25% failure rate only on some of the connections, reinforcing a lot of the welded connections, because the rest Believe it or not, on this fire escape, it's in good order, meaning some of the connections are tight. Some of the issues on the top ones we need to deal with, but that's more of a concern over time. How do we stop that? And that's usually by silicone shutting these tops or stopping these tops from rotting out. Cement is starting to spall here and there more as we go down. I'll start showing you the spalling issues. And see, there's all that spalling. A lot of times, this is what happens. When you have it right near the steel, that's within our capability. But whenever we have a huge long crack of any kind, and we fill those in, that's a mason's job, and iron workers do not do very good mason's jobs. So that's sometimes it falls outside our scope. Some rust getting into your connections, and a lot of times that rust just needs to be cleaned out. The bolts can stay and then load test it, or once we clean that out, put in new bolts, we seal this up. We got to seal all this up with silicone. You're getting some rust buildup right in here. And again, do we clean it, leave the bolts and load test it, or do we refurbish it and avoid the load test? These are all concerns to be discussed. See the cement spalling? You probably got about 20, I'd say about 50% of these are already starting to spall. And the spalling is a problem because what happens is it'll start first through rust jacking, it'll pop it, but then through ice jacking, it'll push your veneer off the wall. So definitely some spalling happening in various areas. But this fire escape doesn't have very much rust inside the tread connections, so it's a perfect candidate that you may want to consider the load test. See, right there, 2 holes missing for a clip holding up holding up a platform. Original hardware here, original hardware there. You can see the rust starting to work in the back. So these are the concerns. A lot of times these will fly with an opinion letter. People will not pick on these things, but left unchecked over time, they will do things to the building. And again, all original hardware. So on this fire escape, it was mainly a paint job, space, that's a trip hazard right there. So it's mainly an issue. So see this little hangers that we have here? This hangers here and hangers over there. So here we have a piece of channel that comes across, and it's embedded into the building but welded here. So in order for me to get this to not have to be load tested, as soon as I blow a bolt through here and over there, I'm basically, and it's because it's bolted below, but up here it's welded, so I can't trust this weld without an x-ray and or a load test. So as soon as I bolt it, we're good. So again, this is one of those fire escapes that's going to be a great candidate for discussion as to what's going to be the norm. See the splitting of what's called the spacers? It's only a matter of time that these gratings need to be replaced, or we can create a sandwich with very low profile, probably 1/8 or 3/16 top, but 1/4 inch bottom, and we make a sandwich so that these things, so we can get some more years out of these. Okay, a lot of these get welded. This is a perfect candidate where somebody just welded this and hope that this tread never falls. Now this needs to be rebolted, and all this needs to be sealed so that water doesn't get back in there. If there's any rust in there, we got to clean it out first, then put it back. We have a welded connection here and a bolted connection there with a weld on top. Again, same thing. Any welded connection must be x-rayed or it must be load tested. Look at this weld right here. This weld right here needs to have a plate so that I can keep the weld, put 2 bolts here, 2 bolts here. Now I don't have to x-ray or load test this weld that's on both sides. There's no clip here. It's just a spot weld right there and a spot weld right there. So as soon as I put a clip on here, I can keep my weld, put a clip in here with a bolt, and we're good. Welded. See, it's already, look, this is a perfect example. Look at all that rust in there of a welded connection. Now, as I said, welds rust from the inside out, not from the outside in. So this ate what used to be a weld over here. And look, it's tearing this weld right there. So now we have to clean this one by opening it all up, then rebolting. We will never weld. Another issue with all these fire escapes, they're older than 1978. They're presumed to have lead. We can't even weld anymore on any of these fire escapes. Everything must be a mechanical fastener. So the EPA requires that all metal that has lead cannot be welded on, torched on. So everything must be a mechanical connection. The good thing about this is that all fire escapes, 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States are bolted connection fire escapes anyway. See the rust inside there? So this is what we're finding. We're finding that all original hardware everywhere, good painting, cement spalling, which is going to pop your veneer, brick. So see that cement spalling right there? Cement spalling right there. Big cement spalling right there. And some of these pieces, depending where they're at, they'll fall down and maybe hit somebody walking by. So not usually, but it can happen. And then we got, again, a combination of bolted fire escape that somebody just came in and welded. So we need to not load test or x-ray this. We just create a gusset of some sort, put a bolt, we're good to go. All right, we're coming down here. You're gonna see some deterioration on the steel, some of the cement issues, which it's in excess of 50% of the cement here is spalling, but a lot of original hardware, at least 75% of the original hardware stayed. Some of the bolts that were supposed to be connected are missing, but again, structurally, there's only 25% of this fire escape that needs to be addressed or attached. But let's take a look at this one. You know, this is holding that piece of grating right there. So, and it's missing its 2 bolts. It usually has a tack weld on the very top, and the only thing holding up this piece of grating is that piece that's missing its bolt. Okay, so a little bit of liability. You can start seeing some of the rust coming in behind a bolt. So any of these bolts that water did penetrate, there's the bottom weld there. Everything needs to have a bolt backup. Take the original bolts out, but 75% of this fire escape, all the original hardware is still here. Okay, so going down, and then it goes out to a doorway. And when you go out this doorway, you got a lot of dirt and debris accumulating here, most likely from the snow that comes through here. Same thing, dirt and debris. Oh, and these steps down below, they're the worst part, probably the worst ones. These will probably all have to get rebolted because we have excessive rust in these. Okay, but down here, all of these have excessive rust. Look at that, huge accumulation of rust. So all of these here will have to be swapped out because the rust is not only inside the clip, eating the side, but it's also eating the top bolt. So a lot of these treads here are going to have to be refurbished with new clips and then rebolted back on. Because it's so moist and damp down here, a lot of them, you know, are starting to lose and pop their spacers. So down here at the very bottom, where it stays moist and cool longer, we probably have a little bit more rust buildup on these treads here. But that's just this area here. Going up, we're not getting, you know, I've shown on the photographs, rust there, rust there, rust in here, rust in here. But again, in total, it amounts to about 25% failure rate structure. But it is a fire escape that 75% of this fire escape is original hardware. They did a lot of welding in some of the pieces they replaced here and there. So we'll discuss this at length in the what the final outcome is going to be for this particular fire escape. But this is Fire Escape Engineers Inspector Summary Video Review. Inspector Meneses here. 866-649-0333.